Maverick Leaders cover the baseline. This week, I'm sharing the latest podcast published for the Maverick Paradox podcast. It's an interesting conversation with Victoria Wick, episode 120, about how Maverick leaders cover the baseline and how you need to be a Maverick to be different and successful. Victoria came to the US in 1971 as a penniless child immigrant who later turned her passion for jewelry into a $500 million business. We discuss what it takes to be this successful and the necessity to elevate and innovate. We talk about how Maverick leaders are pragmatic and how they overcome obstacles. This is a fascinating conversation about Victoria's journey, the successful person's Maverick mindset, and learning from failure on the road to success, and how Maverick leaders manage and reduce risk. Do listen to this interesting conversation. Maverick leaders are often described inaccurately as reckless risk takers. However, when Maverick leaders are covering the baseline, they are managing the risks that they face in such a way that to them, the risk is minimal. So let's consider the Maverick leader's mindset. The Maverick leader is presented with a number of options, and one of those options is deemed to be risky, but appears to be the best option. So the Maverick leader assesses what the worst case scenario might be if the risky option is taken. They then calculate whether they can live with the consequences of the worst scenario happening. If the answer is no, they go back to the planning stage and look at ways to minimize the risk to make it acceptable to them. And this is done with a backdrop of understanding their capabilities and the capabilities or availability of the resources that they want to rely on. They have high self-efficacy, much higher than the average member of the population. They then assess what has been presented as the risky option with their proposed enhancements or mitigating factors. And will that risky option now work better? What's the worst case scenario now? These are the questions the Maverick leader will now consider. They will keep repeating this process until the risky option is de-risked. This does not mean that there is no longer a risk to this option. The point of the process is not to take away the risk and make it safe. The point of the process is to make the risk acceptable to the Maverick leader, to make it possible to achieve stated goals with a recoverable worst-case scenario, which now has a less likelihood of occurring. So are the odds to a successful result now in their favour? Others may deem that the risky option is still too risky. The Maverick leader does not think so. The worst case scenario is now at a reduced likelihood of occurring, and if it does occur, it's recoverable from. Also, the Maverick leader has calculated their own capabilities and resources that they have to draw on. The Maverick leader considers themselves now good to go. So what can be unnerving for the conformist is the fact that the Maverick leader's calculation of the risky option may have taken place in the few moments of being presented with the risky option. This is often why Maverick leaders are often classified as risk takers. They are really acceptable risk takers. With all things considered, effective Maverick leaders are not reckless risk takers at all. Organizations need more Maverick leaders, those that can think fast, take acceptable risks, mitigating and reassessing options, resources, and the environment as they change, all the time aligning others with the mission in hand. The Maverick Impact Fusion shows the components that influences how Maverick leaders behave at any given moment of decision, being or doing. What is key to remember here is that all of the 6 components take place concurrently, not sequentially, which is what makes the Maverick Impact Fusion so powerful. So call me or email me to find out how I can support you or your organization to become Maverick leaders ready to make a difference to your organization or the business that they run. So here's a question. How is covering the baseline relevant to me? Well, we are all living and working in a complex, ever-changing environment where the past methods of thinking and assessing risks are no longer viable, acceptable indicators of risk or success. So you need to be a Maverick leader who lives in the future while standing in the present, recognizing the past. You need to live and work in 3 timeframes concurrently. It's a skill that all Maverick leaders, whether they run their own business or work within someone else's, takes the time to learn how to do. If you work within an organization, your leadership impact is dependent on your ability to predict, mitigate, and manage risk. To take a fast-moving, complex puzzle and find a solution that makes the right risk acceptable and achievable. All the time engaging the workforce and getting the best from them. And everyone can learn to do this, and organisations need every one of the workforce demonstrating this important skill. If you run your own business, then your ability to live in 3 time zones concurrently is even more important. You have your family and employees, freelancers and clients depending on you to still be there as the world becomes increasingly complex and fast changing. COVID has made this abundantly clear for everyone. So if you run any type of service business, your clients will thank you for helping them to do the same, to take those acceptable risks that will elevate and innovate. Not all risks start off as acceptable, but risks can become acceptable dependent on your mindset and your ability to strategize, innovate, and execute. And this is one of the reasons why I enjoy enabling my clients to improve their impact and influence by utilizing their ability to strategize, innovate, and execute. Maverick leaders, business owners or otherwise, can affect massive change if they can predict, mitigate, and manage risk. So do let me show you how. In the Mavericks of Mass Creation video series, this week's video, I speak to David Chisler on why Maverick leaders must innovate. The Maverick Paradox magazine is for the pathologically curious, with articles to stoke that curiosity. There are over 400 articles to read in the magazine, so do take a browse. But here are 3 related to this week's theme to get you started. Are You Learning to Improve by Phil Stunnell? 2, I Can't Come to the Training by Matt Summers. COVID and the Maverick by Robin Farmer. And the Maverick Paradox podcast have podcasts to stimulate your ability to execute. There are over 100 episodes to choose from. Do take a listen. But for this week, here are 3 that I have chosen. Episode 103, Rosie Julian discusses that with experimentation comes risk. Episode 104, Mark Bremner speaks about living in a state of flux by design. And episode 101, Bill McAllister Lovett, about the power of good questions. In my book, The Maverick Paradox, The Secret Power Behind Successful Leaders, you can learn how Mavericks utilize power, take risks, and succeed in what they set out to achieve. It's been called the blueprint to becoming a successful leader, and you will discover the 5 Maverick attributes all natural leaders possess, master the 8 Maverick capabilities that all successful leaders demonstrate, and extend your influence by utilizing the 3 key power bases to become a transformational leader. Check it out at Amazon. So, what's happening and what's next? Well, hrzone.com is an online destination for HR professionals and business leaders, offering advice, guidance, opinions, and up-to-the-date information on how the working life and responsibilities of the modern HR professional are being shaped. The magazine covers a range of topics, including employment law, HR technology, leadership, recruitment, talent management, well-being, diversity, benefits, and training. I'm pleased to confirm that I am now HR Zone's leadership columnist. And my first article, Why Leadership is the Most Critical Skill HR Needs to Develop in a Constantly Changing World, is being published by hrzone.com on the 24th of June. As you know, we are usually on Clubhouse every other Wednesday at 5 p.m. UK, where we have a great free-flowing conversation on Maverick leadership, and we answer questions about being an entrepreneur and working within organisations. However, this week, we're not on Clubhouse. Look forward to seeing you next week. As I said before, the Mavericks of Mass Creation video is about Maverick leaders must innovate. So I speak to David why Maverick leaders just can't help themselves. They need to innovate. Their pathological curiosity is the perfect muse for innovation. Watch the video and learn how you too can innovate. And what's next? Well, we're still calling out to all those that think differently and want to guess right. Are you the sort of person that others are always commenting on the fact that you think differently? Perhaps your different perspective is something that deserves a wider audience. The Maverick Paradox magazine is looking for guest writers who can expand people's minds by showing them a different way of thinking, being, or acting. The audience is for those that are pathologically curious. Do reach out if you think you would like to write for the magazine. Business owners, remember, Maverick leaders cover the baseline, and you should do too. Think about what you want to achieve and how you can make the risks that you take become acceptable risks to you. The need to strategize, innovate, and execute is an important keystone to your success. And if you're not quite there yet, book a call with me or send me an email and let's sort that out for you. Leaders and executives, your job is risk. Learn how to manage that risk by understanding how it relates to what you need to achieve, what you need to innovate, and what is required to execute well. Whether you run your business or work within someone else's and you want the knowledge and capability to reduce the uncertainty in your decision making and increase your leadership impact, let's have a chat. Whatever you choose to do, enjoy the experience.